Hello, so the quote or the line that stood out to me this week in the readings is, "How do I get over the fear that God will hate me if I have sex before marriage?" I feel like that question is something that I've asked myself even to this day, and I know in the past about if God would be angry with me if I didn't wait till marriage. I remember signing a contract, whenever I was 13, and even though then I wasn't, obviously thinking about that kind of stuff and looking and in a relationship or anything like that. So to me, I guess reflecting on it and putting that into my mind as a 13-year-old, it kind of I was kind of questioning that. I'm like, why was that even a concern at that age? So I feel like the fear that God will hate you for having sex before marriage is something that many women, especially myself, especially those raised in religious or conservative environments, struggle with. This often ties deeply into how female sexuality has historically been controlled through shame, silence, and the idea that a woman's worth is tied to her purity. I feel like that's the point that the author was trying to reach in this chapter. Messages like this can make women feel as though their bodies are not fully their own and that expressing sexual desire is something dangerous or sinful. This isn't just about religion, it's about centuries of cultural conditioning that taught women to suppress their sexuality while often excusing or even encouraging male sexual desires. So when a woman begins to explore her own sexual agency, it feels like she's breaking a rule, even if it's something that brings her connection, joy, or healing. So sexual freedom doesn't mean anything and everything. It means the ability to make choices about your body and your relationships without being driven by fear, shame, or obligation. And that's kind of the point that I got from the chapter, and how she was talking about things and how we have the right to take ownership of our sexual parts, everything, just like a man does, so does a woman. So for many women, believing that, especially those who value their faith, this freedom can be complicated. You still might feel like you're not obeying God. You may not make it into heaven. But I feel like putting yourself first and giving yourself grace should be priority. And so I feel like I feel like I asked myself this question: would a truly loving and just God want you to live in fear of your own body? So I feel like that's kind of the question that I asked myself, as to opposed to I'm going to go to hell if I do this. And I know that all sin is seen as equal. So I feel like putting that stamp on that particular sin definitely leads a negative trail, and it can lead to feeling insecure, less confident, not knowing how to explore or anything like that. And not saying it shouldn't be done in the right way, but putting that on people or young girls can be really challenging for them as they get older. And so the video that was on the readings as well by Lil Nas is a powerful and proactive example of what it looks like to reclaim identity, just reclaiming our sexual identity, freedom, and spirituality in the world that tries to shame you for who you are. While I feel like the song and video has had a lot of backlash, and even watching on it, I had to watch it a couple times or twice to kind of understand what was going on, especially from a religious conservative point of view. But it also resonates people who feel like their desires or identities are separate from their God. The imagery in the video flips traditional narratives on their head instead of begging for acceptance. I feel like the message that would kind of symboling in that video is, I refuse to be ashamed of who I am. And I feel like that's a message that this whole kind of chapter is having, about how we should be confident in ourselves and take control of everything: our sexual freedom, our religious freedom, our emotional everything. And yeah, thank you.